Hit the like button, please. One man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time. Yeah.
We do know that you will always get paid in Hex on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call Hex, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
What is up? Welcome in, everybody, to the Creed of Crypto. I am Broke Boy Crypto, and I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. Welcome into the chat. We got Checks My Pulse checking in, of course. Appreciate you being here, sir. We got Alex New as well. It's too late for him in his part of the world, but that is okay. You can catch us on the replay. Brewmaster Jerry, welcome in. So glad to catch you live. You guys are fantastic. Less beer now, more beer later. Buy those cheap t-shirts while you can. Brew me up a triple hazy IPA. There, Jerry. I appreciate that. We got, of course, DJ Moon Boy, Valiant Low Key. Appreciate you guys being here each and every week. While we see Bitcoin actually moving up, and Ethereum a little bit too, and PulseChain a little bit too. What the hell is happening? I don't know. We will see. We got a lot going on tonight, obviously. It's kind of one of those things where you accidentally walk in on a surprise birthday party, and then everybody's like, oh, well, happy birthday, or whatever. Like, oh, the SEC thing's dismissed. I mean, we kind of already knew this, and now it's pretty much entirely, completely gone. We've known it for almost 2 months now, but that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, and a whole lot more. We have Dipcatcher out there creating things for eHex. We have had that gentleman on our show before. We'll talk about him. He's an interesting, polarizing figure, I guess we'll say, to a lot of people in the community, but I am interested, and we've talked about eHex on here a long time. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Some people say the market's chosen, but we're going to get to that, a whole lot of stuff tonight. So hit us up in the chat. We want to know the sentiment from you guys right now. How are you feeling about everything? But Ewok, how about yourself? How are you feeling about markets and life in general here?
I'm feeling great. Lots of positivity, lots of good things happening. Great news. Charts been green. I think we're in a great position. I think it's early still. But I think everything is kind of setting up for the right things to just fall right into place and have a fantastic summer. So I like the looks of everything right now.
Yeah, a nice summer would definitely we've had summertime blues, as the Who would say, or whoever else originally did that song years ago. But yeah, hopefully we are looking at a good summertime for sure. We have things moving right now. PulseChain started pumping in earnest Friday night when you and I were hanging out, actually. It was very interesting. We just kept looking, and boom, 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 thick green candles. So we're going to get to all that. Headphone fell off, but let's look at Bitcoin right now. We got BTC looking real good since over the weekend, really. Really nice time for it to go up. We had the Trump tariff drama a few weeks ago. Everybody's selling everything because they're pansies. But we do have Bitcoin moving up now. 93.5K is pretty much where we're at right now. We have ETH. Look at ETH. The acorn sticking out here. We got it up at about 1,800 now. It's closing in. What's its ratio at? Probably like 0.2 1 or something. I don't know. But we have ETH moving up as well. It's good to see. The market in general has been moving up here since the weekend, but really good to see from Bitcoin. I mean, for as much bearishness as there's been the last couple of weeks, you and I think we both were very confident that, hey, we're still where we're at in the cycle. We saw Bitcoin break down into the mid to high 70s, which, something like that was expected. It never went below that key kind of area of 72K, which multiple weekly closes below there may have marked us in like, what kind of territory are we in? But this is a great move right now. Glad to see it happening and kind of right on schedule with past cycles for Bitcoin. Of course, the burying the lead that we'll get to is, well, Ethereum, yeah, it's moving, but it's still not looking great overall. But yeah, what do you make of where we're at in the cycle, where Bitcoin's at, and this bullish move you walk?
Yeah, well, came up over this trend line that I keep referring back to, the one that I was concerned about. I went back to the daily chart, and the daily candle looks fantastic. We were looking at the weekly there. And yesterday's daily candle, like I said, went from about 87 all the way up to 93. So a very nice move there. Got above the trend line, closed that candle. Now we've got to stay above it. And it, it looks primed to do so. I see no reason for it not. Could we reach a little bit of levels here? Yeah, it's possible, because there is a lot right in this $98,000 range. Once we hit that, we'll probably see a little resistance, as we did all back here. I mean, it was complete resistance from basically the whole month of February.
Yeah.
So I suspect that will be a little resistance to get through that level. But yeah, looking very strong here on the daily. Like I said, the weekly looks extremely strong too. That's what we were looking at originally. And yeah, this weekly candle, if it closes above the trend line, I would say all systems go for higher levels in the next coming months. So
yeah, it's looking excellent.
Ethereum.
And well, I was just gonna say too, on the
Go ahead.
Bitcoin and crypto thing in general, the DXY look is very much down as well. So it's good to see the dollar falling. Of course, always going to be good for risk assets. But yeah, go ahead. And what do we see with Ethereum here?
Well, I pull up the DXY for you.
Okay,
and,
cool.
And yeah, exactly the opposite. So, when the dollar goes down, risk on assets kind of take the forefront, because their dollar is not as valuable as it once was. So exactly what we're seeing in the markets. I'll go over to Ethereum here. I do have the USD. I think you had asked what the ratio was. We are unfortunately still hanging out at that 0.019 level. You're going to see that because Bitcoin's going up as well, right? I mean, when they both go up together, the ratio isn't going to change a whole lot. So let's go back to the USD. But yeah, I mean, this candle is kind of eclipsing these other ones, and if we can get above, it's going to take a $2,000 move for it to I really think start to show some signs of strength. These levels back in here, anywhere from 1,700 up to 2,100 could act as resistance, because once it got through that level, then it chopped around, and we'll be seeing, the regular stuff between 2,800 and 4,000. That's a long way off, obviously, but things can happen rather quickly, as we know, especially with the amount of big buyers that we know claim they're purchasing a lot of Ethereum. So looking good on the weekly. Let's go to the daily. I'm sure that one looks even better. Yeah, so we are approaching the 50-day moving average. We are still below those. This is dipped way down. So we really need to get in between these, pull these up so we can get this green to cross back over the 50 to cross back over the 200, as far as moving day averages go, to get this trend reversed. But so far, it looks very promising.
It does, yeah. And you made a point a minute ago about like Bitcoin and ETH moving up together, so we're not really seeing the ratio close that much. But I mean, at some point, usually they are moving up together in some fashion. I want to get your input from like past cycles and stuff too, because, generally long term, you can see, oh, Bitcoin's going up, Ethereum's going up or whatever. But describe a little bit what it's like, because we haven't seen it. There's a whole era of new crypto people in the market here that have never seen Ethereum just go up. I mean, actually, they've seen the exact opposite. But yeah, talk about that. Like, what's it like? What does it look like when Ethereum is running and Bitcoin maybe is just stagnant? Because we haven't been treated to that. I mean, I guess, Ethereum did get up to 4K months and months ago in 2024, but Bitcoin was kind of always steadily moving up with it. We have not seen any kind of proper blow off type of alt season even remotely yet.
Well, a lot of this is based on percentages and change in total, right? Bitcoin is still very, very heavy at $93,000 a token. You're extremely heavy. It takes a lot to move that. With Ethereum being 1,800, so I mean, so you can see what happens when ETH doubles. It's only going to be 3,600. For Bitcoin to double, it's got to get to 180,000. So that is where the ratio actually starts to show some heavy movement and gaining on that position. And, like I said, because Bitcoin is so heavy, that's how Ethereum can kind of catch up, so to speak. So that's what you see on the chart as far as that goes.
Yeah. Well, we're going to continue to hang out and see where Ethereum does go. But it does feel like this timing of this pump feels scripted almost, because we had the drama of the tariffs and stuff a few weeks ago, the Trump presidency getting itself settled in, people realizing like, oh, okay, he's actually doing this shit or whatever. And now we're 3 months since he's been sworn in. There hasn't been, I mean, I don't look at news all that much, but I mean, there hasn't been as much talk about tariffs over the last couple of weeks. People just kind of there's that lull, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the market starts moving up when no one's even thinking or talking about it. That's what always seems to happen in scenarios like this. So,
what you see is a lot of creeping, right? It creeps and it creeps and it creeps, and the next thing you know, holy shit, we just gained 2,000, and it just happens so slowly, so steadily, that people are like, oh crap. And then they feel like they have to jump in. They have to make a move. They have to do something. That's when you see the crazy candles start to really take off. And then the snowball effect happens after that. But, like I said, you see the slow creep, and it's going up and it's going up, and it's not enough. It's not enough for people to say, well, it's like 6 or 7% today, 6 or 7% today. But when you add all those up, they really do. They do add up, and it makes a big difference over the course of a couple weeks when you're seeing those 5, 6, 7, 8% days over and over and over again. It's not a whole lot at one time, but for sure, when you look at the past couple weeks and see what just happened, and that's how people feel like they've missed it, so to speak.
Right. I'm a creep. I'm a widow. All right. Anyway, I couldn't resist after you said creep. So yeah, we are seeing Ethereum and Bitcoin both moving up. It's looking good. Hit the like if you're enjoying the show so far. Let's get to PulseChain. We have been pumping since Friday night. Ewok and I were hanging out. We were sipping on some suds. We were biting on some food. We were watching on some TV, hanging out, being boys by the fire, and PulseChain started pumping right about that time. It was really kind of relentless too. I mean, I say that as we're still 70% down from sack rate or whatever, but I mean, it was nice to see some positive movement. And so that brings us to where we are now with Pulse at about 4 zeros and a 356. We got PulseX at 4 zeros and basically a 3,297. Inc. is at $1.65. We have Hex now at 0.075. And eHex, which is a topic we're going to get to quite a bit tonight, and also look at its chart against Hex. What's the actual price at? I was going to pull
0.026.
Okay, 0.026. So we'll look at that in that ratio. But but before we get into the eHex Hex thing, I just want to highlight, I mean, we got to look at that Pulse chart and just see the move that we've made. We're basically right around previous all-time lows, a little above them, really. And around that area, hoping that we can blast through here. We've been hanging out here for a couple of days. Right around this area is pretty much where the pump kind of stopped at when we were hanging on Friday into Saturday. And as so many people have pointed out, when Richard tweeted it, it's usually when the sell-off happens, and that's exactly what happened, actually. So I noticed. So anyway, yeah, what do you think of this move by Pulse in the chart overall? It doesn't look great, but I mean, we're now starting to move up here.
Well, the one thing we did do was we eclipsed the previous bottom. Like before we hit this last all-time low, we have eclipsed this one that happened back here in September, which was right around the 00031 area. So we have eclipsed through that. Now, my next stop and concern is the resistance right about where we're at from these two lows and this low back here. So it did 1, 2, 3 triple bottom at the level that we're at right now. So it's a very, I don't want to say concerning level, but one we definitely want to keep an eye on. It could possibly see some resistance here, but as of right now, things are looking pretty strong. I mean, when you look into this new, I guess this is the daily chart. Yesterday's daily was red only ever so slightly. It just came down just a hair. It's odd. I forget. I think Johnny had said it the one day, but there's really a $1 difference from a red candle and a green candle, depending on if $1 more was bought or if $1 more was sold, then the opposite. That's what color your candle is. And that's essentially what happened yesterday. So, very, very minimal move. We are feeling the little bit of resistance though from these levels. So curious to see what happens here and see how we kind of either bounce around here for a little bit and get it straightened out or go right through it. So I'm excited to see how this plays out.
And certainly your call from a couple of weeks ago, you didn't do it on here, but I mean, you and I talking when you kind of deployed some of the remaining stables you had. I mean, I remember you, and you must have been pretty convicted because I think it was on a Saturday and you were just like, I really feel like where we just were was the bottom, and, you DCA'd in, and we're literally over 50% up on that move. So you're looking pretty good on that until we tank like next weekend. But yeah.
Well, so that was what I was looking at was the weekly candle. Right. And we had 2 consecutive ones. And essentially we hadn't had 2 consecutive green candles since back in November. Now we're working on 4 consecutive green weekly candles. So yeah, I mean, again, that was the confirmation that I was kind of looking for. If it does pull back from here, I don't see us going back down into these levels.
Yeah, I don't know.
There is a chance, but I just really don't see it. I think we found a floor, enough support to bounce maybe at this 3248 level, this previous old bottom. But yeah, I mean, everything is still looking pretty good on the weekly chart. 4 consecutive green candles now. We can expect probably a little pullback, but on a weekly candle, it takes a lot of pullback. So, again, keep it looking strong. I think it looks great.
I totally agree. It's looking fantastic right now. Let's focus on the 2 hexes, and we're going to get to, again, Dipcatcher launching this FlexNet thing and what it's all about to try to promote eHex and the use of it a little bit more, and his belief that, like, basically, if PulseChain's going to pump, Hex has got to spearhead it and things like that. We'll get to that. But looking at eHex, which has been making a move, and to kind of put this conversation a little bit in perspective, honestly, they're literally, and I'm not even exaggerating, I mean, there could be people watching this right now that don't even know what I'm talking about when I say this, because it was almost 2 full years ago, a little bit over or after PulseChain launch. Man, I remember these days so vividly. I'm sure you do too. Like, it was still fun. We weren't totally battered and beaten from the last couple of years, but the first huge wave of drama was PHEX and eHex, or Hex and eHex, whatever you want to say. And people started to sell off eHex and people were buying into Hex, and what are you going to do? And it was June of 2023 when a lot of that was really going on. I remember us talking about about it. And that's when Furu Finance, which shout out to him, I don't know where he's at or what he's doing. I'm sure he's still probably in the ecosystem, but he was basically streaming every day. Here to put it in perspective, if you guys don't know this story, what a lot of people think about Sami with PDI right now, that was Furu Finance with the P-Hex is the only hex thing. If you remember, kind of like almost outrage marketing about it. And then came the fateful day, whenever that was, where Richard eventually said, it looks like the market has chosen hex and blah, blah, blah. So fun times back then. People were arguing back and forth about which hex. You and I, though, always were advocates of like, hey, we're holding both, we're buying both, maybe hex a little bit more than eHex, obviously, but we've been DCAing into both of them and own them. I mean, obviously, we already owned it, but you know, we've never thought that shooting off eHex was in any way a good idea. And I really don't think Richard ever thought that either. I think people just took his words and filled in the blanks for what they wanted to kind of hear. But anyway, sorry for the preamble. I just thought it was interesting and to talk about those times. Marco, I wouldn't count your chickens before they hatch there, buddy. I wasn't criticizing Sami, FYI. But anyway, yeah, what do you make of where eHex is now? I mean, that argument has mainly kind of been put to rest. People don't talk about it as much anymore, but we've both been advocates for still buying eHex. So what do you make of this?
Well, yeah. So you talk about from the launch back in June of 23, they chopped around together. This is the eHex P-Hex ratio between the two tokens. So yeah, they chopped around for quite some time. And I believe this was the fateful tweet that Richard made and said, looks like the market has decided. And boom, it went, you know, all the way down to here on the ratio where it was wait a second. That's not right. Is that right? How does that change from point? Anyway, yeah, it essentially doubled. It went from, you know, where it was 0.5, it was about a half at that time to probably 3 or 4 to 1 ratio. I think it probably topped out 5 to 1, maybe 6, even down here, because you're looking at 0.2. So yeah, it went crazy. We've chopped around ever since. Again, you know, it's made its comeback back here at the bottom, November of 24. And it's been slow, steady increase ever since then. So again, you know, we've always talked about holding both. Why try to pick the right horse when you've got more than one in the race, right? Because you can easily 50-50 make the wrong call. So, you know, we were always proponents of holding both of them, which hasn't turned out badly at all. In fact, there's been some great deals on eHex, and buying some of that at some of these low levels has turned out to be a pretty damn good deal, because it's been pretty easy to almost double your holdings if you were buying at some of them, you know, along the way. So yeah, I've always been a proponent. You know, Johnny Chaos has always been another one in that whole thing between Furu and Johnny. Gained a lot more attention than it really needed,
because they used to stream together, and then it just they were at odds after that.
That's where the argument started, because you know, Johnny said one thing, why pick one, and Furu obviously had his heels dug in to say it is P-Hex is the only one now, and you know, unfortunately, it's not correct. eHex is going to be a lot closer for some of these newer people to get into. It will always be a running contract. Like I have said many times, you can't shut it off. You know, it's still going to provide the same, if not better, yields than you're going to get on P-Hex. So, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't want to forget it, because digital money markets must have missed this. Has the OA wallet ever staked eHex in recent times like P-Hex, or bought from the OA wallet? I mean, it definitely did stake eHex, didn't it, Ewok? I'm pretty sure it staked a ton of it for a very long time.
Yeah, both chains got the supply or the yield slashed heavily when the OA decided to step in and kind of take control of how much yield was getting produced. So yes, it did for one just like the other one, you know. So yes, it has done both chains.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's been plenty of support very clearly and obviously for eHex this entire time. And I think that there's probably, you know, if you want to ask, here's another interesting element about the whole, that Richard tweet about, you know, the market has chosen Hex and whatever. There's a certain entity that some kind of wanted to be out of eHex eventually. And that entity is called BankX. They, you know, that's even another one that people may not totally be familiar with, but we don't need to get into what their project was. But basically, they ran a sacrifice like everybody else for their whatever silver coin or whatever it was, and had how much eHex? Like 8 billion or something.
At one point, they had 800 million. It was the God whale.
Right. They're down to 100 or so now.
Yes, less than 100.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah. So I guess my point was, like, for some of the bad talking about eHex or the, you know, kind of letting it go, I think some people were interested in getting those people out of the ecosystem and selling at the lows, which they've now effectively done. And for the longest time, it was like, when can eHex ever go up? There's just this huge sell wall from BankX. Well, they've just been DCAing out of the market at the lows, essentially. So, and now they're not even really a threat anymore. They don't really have enough to affect the price. And we've shaken out so much in eHex that I think there's not really many places to go. We've had the T-shares slashed, obviously, as well. So, yeah, that's why we're at. Let me ask you this, and, you know, I don't want anybody to take this as we're telling you to do this. You guys do whatever you want to do. But my method when I've been DCAing EWOC, like if I do an even DCA of the core coins like Pulse, PulseX, and Hex, I'll maybe, and some people buy ink. I don't really usually DCA ink, but I usually will go like 33% into all three of those. And then with my Hex and eHex, I'll buy like 2/3 of the Hex allocation of regular Hex, and then like a third eHex or something like that. Maybe you could split both, whatever you want to do. But I'm just curious if you ever, any way you have maybe done it. I mean, you're kind of different though, because I mean, you had so much Hex in general anyway on both chains from the last cycle. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I got the airdrop obviously when I had from what I had originally, but I've continued to buy both. My whatever allocation I have for Hex is split between the two. I still buy both of them. I think the returns are going to be, you know, just as good. And you know, right now at 0.001, you know, if you're able to scoop it up at that price, you know, it's not hard. At 0.002, you've doubled your money, right? You know, with PHEX, you know, you're sitting at, you know, whatever it is, 0.007. Now you've got to get up to 1.4 cents to double. So, you know, the chances of doubling eHex are a lot easier. Now, yes, there is a lot less liquidity, so you have to keep that in mind. Not going to be able to exit out with large numbers without affecting the price considerably. So, you know, that is the one benefit that the PulseChain has on the Hex side, is that there is more liquidity. You know, you're not going to affect the price as much if you decide to take some profits. So,
yeah. Well, it's definitely an intriguing storyline. We're going to talk about the FlexNet that's been, or is going to be launched, I believe, by Dipcatcher here shortly. So we'll put a pin in that conversation for a little bit later. But yeah, either way, the PulseChain ecosystem price is moving up hard with the rest of the market right now. So that's very nice to see. So if you are enjoying this stream so far, do us a favor, hit the like button. We appreciate you guys being here. We do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we got some bullish stuff to talk about right now. So let's transition to the dismissal 2.0 of the SEC's case against Richard Hart and his alter egos, quote unquote, Pulse, PulseX, Hex, and whatever else they put in the lawsuit. Yeah, it is now officially over. And again, like I said earlier, it's almost like you saw the Christmas presents in mom and dad's room before they wrap them, and then you get it on Christmas Day, and you're like, oh, cool, PlayStation 3. Because we already knew this on February 28th, and that was a glorious day. You were on your cruise, EWOC, and you had that was the day you met up with coffee, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
The exact day Coffee and I had lunch in Puerto Rico while we were there, and got back on the ship, saw the news right away, and within minutes he was streaming, and everybody was kind of going crazy. The price didn't really reflect it, unfortunately.
Well, it did that day a little. It did for a little bit, yeah.
But not really long term. Like I kind of thought that it would. We thought we would see a lot more bullish activity. However, it turned out to be a sell the news event, clearly, and then we were like, well, okay, now that they've pushed it back and asked for more time, now we've got to wait until April. Well, actually, at first they asked for another month, right? So originally it was March, and then they asked for another 30 days. And we just got this news, as of what was it, Monday? So good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is really good. And there's a lot of misrepresentation out there. We'll say it on here for anybody that happens to be watching this, maybe clipped later on, that stumbled onto this and isn't aware of the PulseChain ecosystem. I thought Crypto Coffee said this well on a video today. No, the SEC didn't drop this case. No, the SEC didn't, end its attacking of Richard Hart. A judge, Carol Amon, already completely dismissed every part of this case. The SEC lost this lawsuit. That's what happened. She dismissed the jurisdiction. She dismissed the fraud. She dismissed the fraud, every single angle of it. It wasn't just, well, there was a jurisdiction technicality. They lost on every count of the lawsuit.
Yeah.
The securities offering, like as far as anything being securities, they lost all of it. She decimated everything about their original complaint. And that's why many speculated, why the hell would they even ask for any more time? Because she's just given them no inch to even gain here.
Right.
So the SEC, and here's what I think, and I'm certainly not apologizing for them because fuck those guys, honestly. But I think they were in a point of transition, because the new administration coming in, we did not have Paul, what's his name? Why am I forgetting? The new SEC guy.
Paul
Blart? Paul
no.
No.
Paul Atkins.
Paul Atkins, yeah, he's now been confirmed. Mall cop, and we were in the midst of a transition. Basically, the SEC had all this different stuff going on. So maybe I think they probably still, keep in mind, like the SEC is their own little entity, but they also have lawyers, and I think the lawyers for them versus they're not controlling what's happening at the top of the SEC. So while administration was changing, while things were being shuffled, they're like, okay, let's get an extension here. We'll see if we're going to do an admitted complaint. Judge Amon unfortunately granted it to our chagrin, but I think she did it because it's like, sure, I'll give you the time, but that doesn't mean you're going to be able to come up with anything that I'll let through because, she, again, decimated their whole complaint. So anyway, so that all happens. We get to April 21st. Sure enough, right at the end of the day, the SEC puts in, you know what, we're not going to amend our complaint. We realize it sucks. We've been told by our bosses to stop even pursuing crap like this anymore. So you're right. We got spanked on our bums and lost, and we don't have anything better for you. So we quit. So, yeah, that's where we're at.
Pretty good summary.
Okay. Well, there we go. We got a Richard tweet about it. So this is great. So you and I, when we saw this today, I think we both have thoughts on this. So I'll read it real quick, and I want to get your perspective on it first, Ewok. So Richard, just today, the tone of this: I beat the SEC in court. The SEC did not drop its case against me. The judge completely dismissed their case for both failure to state a claim and lack of jurisdiction. This is why PulseChain, PulseX, and Hex gained legal certainty that almost no other coin has, even Ethereum, which is kind of uncanny, but nobody ever came after them. The judge also rejected the SEC's abandoned alter ego theory. This is a victory for open source software, free speech, Pulse, PulseX, Hex, and I love this, and I think there's kind of some, I know we talk about the hidden meaning and argue about that. I don't want to say hidden meaning, but I think there's some extra sauce in here. But yeah, what do you make of this tweet by Richard?
Well, I don't really think there's anything hidden. I think he's coming out and telling the people, because here's what we're seeing. You see these big Cointelegraph pages and different news feeds saying that the SEC dropped the case. He's flat out saying right here, I beat them. They didn't drop anything. We won. And it's not only provided clarity and some legal certainty, but it's also kind of set precedent for other people, which is very important, for free speech, for open source software. A lot of people can possibly use this as precedent now. Like, the judge, by ordering them to get rid of that alter ego theory, you can't sue software. Where does the blockchain live? Ask those questions. It's definitely set a precedent now for open source software. So, I think it's a wonderful thing, and I think Richard's kind of just putting the exclamation point on it here by saying, get your stories right. They didn't drop the case. We won. So, yeah, the clarity that came out of this, and her stating essentially that these are not securities. Yeah, it gives us something that a lot of other people don't have. And there's a lot of influencers out there that don't like it, but it's too bad, right? It is what it is. He spent the money on the lawyers and the team of people to fight this, and got the ruling that we wanted. So yeah, I think it's pretty fantastic.
I agree. And I guess what I was alluding to, I kind of said it to you in our chat today, but just the personal tone of this. I know he said I beat the SEC before, but this is the tone of it. Just seems like the attitude of Richard in past cycles, like winning Richard, visible Richard, bragging about the stuff that he's created. I'm not talking about outrage marketing stuff, but just not afraid to call out whatever he sees.
Sure.
And I'm just wondering, everybody's going to bang on about this. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I don't know how necessary it is. And honestly, I know Sami always says it, and I think he's right. I don't know that it would make much of a difference right now, but with him talking like this, it feels like we're closer to him streaming or coming on video at some point or something like that. Just the attitude of this, the personal nature of this post, I think having this as officially out of the way as you can possibly have. We do know from, I guess it would have been I think it already would have happened that she entered that this is basically over. Or maybe she hasn't yet. I don't know if there's something else she has to do, but Judge Carroll, there's a 60-day window where they could appeal it, which would be, I don't know, in any world, I don't know why that would happen, obviously.
It puts us to June 21st. I did look that up to see what 60 days after Monday would be. It puts us at June 21st, which at that point, they've lost their window of appeal. And I believe then she would probably write up the dismissal, probably with prejudice, saying you guys can't bring this back up again. And at that point, kind of free and clear. So when you say about the streaming, I worry still, is there a chance his lawyers are saying, dude, I know you want to do it. Lay low. Number one, lay low until the appeal is over. Don't give them any kind of information or ammo. Don't say anything that could kind of come back to haunt you. Here's the interesting thing. They can't change their complaint. I mean, they can't bring up new stuff. So I think we're good there. I think he probably could stream as long as he's, again, he's prepared for this for a long time. So he knew what to say, what not to say. He never got himself in trouble by forward-looking statements on price or anything like that. So he's good there. But why take a risk, right? So not only do you want to wait those 60 days, but while we're at it and we got these lawyers, let's take care of this red notice, right? This bullshit charge that Finland came up with about crazy tax evasion or whatever it's called. I forget what the term actually was.
Aggravated tax
fraud.
Fraud, yeah, that's it.
Aggravated
what does
tax
that even mean?
Fraud,
what does
which
that mean?
means
yeah,
they want some of his money. That's all that means. It's really them putting out a hit to say, well, we found out you've got all this money and we feel that you probably should have paid taxes to us. But what they don't know, or there's nothing justified, is that maybe it's not in Richard's name. Maybe it's in a trust. Maybe it's in Malta somewhere, in a registered trust that Finland has no jurisdiction over. And then there was some bullshit charge about hitting a teenage person.
Of course, yeah.
Whatever to throw it in there. But I guess if that's what gets you on Interpol's red list, or so be it. But again, let's tackle all this stuff, let it end, all of it, get it straightened out, and then stream. And I think that's probably what we'll see. I know people really want to hear from him and see him kind of rub it in, but I don't think it's going to happen until, probably late June, early July. And again, that's what I was saying earlier. My point was setting things up to have a fantastic summer. I think by that point, we're going to see a completely different market. We're going to completely see Ethereum, Bitcoin probably have taken off by then, doing some amazing things. That SAC wallet, whatever, the Ethereum one that people are watching like a hawk, could be double, triple its value by then. Just a lot of good things, right? I think we're going to be in a completely different space with a bunch of green candles. And I think that would be the ideal time to come out of the woodwork and do a stream. And we get that tweet that says, anybody up for a live stream?
Yeah. Oh my God. I could not. I mean, the closest thing that we've had to that anytime in the last couple of years was right before Pulse launch, honestly, whenever he just posted, how's everybody feeling today or whatever before Pulse launched. I mean, that's the last time
his last stream was the one on the conference. It was a Pulse conference at the beginning of January 6th, whatever, January 3rd.
Be careful about January 6th. I cannot hear that date uttered without shuddering in fear.
That's why I said it. Never mind. It was January 9th. Yes, it was the last day of the conference.
I do remember that, yeah. And he actually was brash about the SEC on that stream, I remember.
Yeah.
He called them out.
Yeah, he sure did.
Yeah, very interesting. And now he beat their fucking ass, so pretty funny.
Kind of fitting.
Yeah, so that's where we're at. Pretty awesome, pretty cool. I think we have to talk about this next part because it's kind of interesting. And you know what? I don't even know if we need to say the parties' names involved because I don't even know if I want to give them any attention because they're not worth it. But I found it interesting the other day when the result of this comes out that Hexo, who is, I think pretty much everybody agrees is a nice guy. Maybe not the Altcoin Daily twins because he's trolled them so much over the years. But Hexologist tweeted about this result and tagged a couple of, I actually forget all of who he tagged, but tagged a couple of mainstream crypto channels like, hey guys, check it out. You should cover this. This is significant for the whole industry, much like the XRP victory was. Because, you and I have never invested in XRP or cared about Ripple or really agree with a lot of anything that they do at all, but both agree that them beating the SEC was great objectively. But some people can't do that when it comes to the Richard Hart angle of things. But yeah, so he tagged a couple of people. And I guess in general, who cares? It's Wendy O is who I'm talking about. But there's some other people. I don't know why I'm avoiding it. I just don't want to give her the attention. But the thing is, I understand some people being frustrated by certain communities in crypto. And I understand if they've had experiences before with people from Hex that were overly dramatic and stuff like that or whatever. But in my opinion, if you believe that you should make a sweeping generalization about a group of people, it sounds kind of well, I'm not going to go there. But it just, I think it's a short-sighted view to make a sweeping generalization about any group of people. That's just my opinion. But the other interesting thing is, I think that individual, they were kind of caught, mucking it up in the comments with some people too, kind of going back and forth and stuff like that and being overly critical, even when nice people were trying to talk to them. So, yeah, I don't really understand it. But why do you think there's a hesitance? And I'm not talking about what's that? The British guy, Coin Bureau. That dude is obviously paid by all the people. I mean, he's said it on air before. I mean, like he's
Right.
paid off by Solana. It had FTX sponsorships, all kinds of stuff like that.
They all do, man.
Yeah, exactly. I
They
was
all
just
do.
pointing him out. Like he's somebody who would obviously never cover anything to do with Richard
Right.
Hart, but at
Right.
least like BitBoy, Wendy-O, some of those people like would occasionally maybe say something. But like you said, yeah, a lot of them are bought and paid for, and our ecosystem does not do that. Like as weird as it is to believe, all of us people maniacally streaming like this, the only income we receive from us doing this right now is the piddly amount that we get from YouTube every single month. We do not get anything else. I've never met Richard Hart. I don't know the guy. It's just so funny when people call you out like, oh, you guys probably been paid or whatever. It's like, dude, if you had any idea how fucked I've been for the last few years.
Right.
But yeah, just I don't give a shit if she covers it or not. And I know we have people out there like Corey Costa, who's a great dude who tries to, make bridges with some of these people and stuff like that. But some of them, I'm just really not interested. I mean, if they're going to have that kind of attitude and generalize people, I was going to cover it, but not now with some of the. No, you weren't. You weren't going to cover it anyway. That's what my opinion is. So it doesn't matter to me. I mean, this is bigger than anything to do with Wendy-O, honestly.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, and maybe she would have covered it. She probably didn't want to. Her sponsors probably didn't want her to. They're all. It's funny. I forget who brought it up. Somebody brought it up that all of these news people put out the article at roughly exactly the same time. Right. So we know they're all working together. We know they're all probably owned by the same people, the same cabal, whatever it is. And the influencers, the big ones, they get paid to talk about it. Now, I'll defend Ivan. Ivan on Tech has been,
I agree,
a proponent of Richard and friends. I think they're friends, for quite some time. He talks about us all the time. But some of the bigger ones, like the Crypto Ran and Wendy and BitBoy did bring him up at one point. But again, these people are paid shills, right? They get paid to talk about coins, and they get pretty much told not to talk about other things. They don't want Richard to succeed. It's pretty simple. And we've been the underdog for 5-6 years now. Because he does not play their games. He won't give them money. He won't pay to be listed somewhere. He won't pay to be talked about. Not going to give them coin allocations. If they want it, they've got to buy it. And people don't like that. From the time he switched as a Bitcoin maxi to say, well, Ethereum is really not that bad, and Bitcoin now kind of really sucks. He burned a lot of bridges, and people still have not forgiven him for that. And that's why we've been gatekept and mistreated, and our true statistics have been hidden from CoinMarketCap. And I could go on and on with all these things that have happened along the way. But that's why. So, it's just been, it's been rough, and who cares what the influencers say? Once things start to happen, they'll have no choice but to talk about us. Or what's going to happen is their viewers are going to be like, why didn't you talk about this? Why aren't you talking about this thing that's going up over here? And they're going to lose viewers. So, it'll eventually catch up to them. And they don't care. They're not making money off of it. They don't want to go out of their way to talk about something that they're not getting paid for. Simple as that. I get it. That's their business model. They have every right to talk about what they want, but people ask why, and that's exactly it. So
yeah. And I understand when prices are down and it's been a rough few years. And by the way, shout out Cody Pauly. I remember you, man. I remember your name, man. I haven't seen you in a while. But when things have been down the last few years, I get it. You do tend to, as a community, as an investor, whatever, come from a place of scarcity because you're like, oh my God, I need this stuff to go up, and other things are going up. And I'm like, you grovel to these people to try to get coverage and stuff like that. And I'm with you 100% on Ivan on Tech. Ivan on Tech is great because he's been critical when he deems necessary about Hex or PulseChain and stuff like that, but he's open to it. He doesn't, and BitBoy, I think, actually had been kind of like that. I mean, he's a whole other situation, obviously.
That's a weird dynamic.
I don't know that I need to Yeah, he's kind of a unicorn individual.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know where else to go with it. It's just it's a story as old as time. They're
Yep.
just
Yep.
not interested in covering it. But I do not think we should grovel. I mean, I don't give a shit what these people say. I'm not gonna, and I'll say this: I don't think you should be going to their page or going to their chat like, "Hey, you suck, Windio." I mean, no, definitely don't do anything like that. They're entitled to do, like you've said it many times here, Ewok. They're paid shills. Okay, that's their choice. That's their lot in life. That's what their career. That's what they've decided to do. Let them do that. That's fine. More power to you. That's totally fine. I don't even have a problem with it. But if you're going to generalize us as a group of people and stuff like that, I mean, you're just, all you're doing is confirming the reasons that I wouldn't watch your goddamn channel in a million years.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. I mean, and that's honestly the best form of, if you want to boycott somebody, don't bash them online. There's no need to say rude shit to them. Just don't watch their channel. Ignore them. Pay them no mind. And I mean, they have enough viewers that it's probably not going to affect them. But if they piss enough people off and they start losing viewers, it will affect them. So, that's the best way to hit them where it hurts, really. And throwing and slinging mud at people. Now, yes, you did, Tam did kind of let her have it online, whether it's justified. And I think it sounded like they have a bit of a history there for one way or another. But yeah, so again, let the people do what they do. There's no need to pile on.
Yeah, I agree. There's you don't go out of your way to talk to the people or whatever, but I'm not really interested in them. And I agree that anybody, like, people should. And yeah, I saw somebody earlier, I think, mentioned Scott Melker covering it. I mean, he's not a fan of the ecosystem or anything, but he does. When something significant like that happens, he does cover it, to his credit, for sure. He's had Brandon Davis and Gary Woods on before, actually, regarding PulseChain. So, it's great news all around. If people think that it's not worth covering, no, maybe they will whenever the price is higher. I think that's probably a good prediction right there. So,
he'll definitely assist in people buying tops again.
yes, they can buy my tops for sure. I'm very happy to sell it to them. Not that I'll be selling at that point, but anyway, so that covers that topic. Incredibly bullish, really good to see. So yeah, really good stuff. Smash the like if you're appreciating the stream so far. We appreciate you guys being here tonight. Let's get into this Dipcatcher thing. And I don't know which maybe post to go to, but in case you guys have kind of missed it. So I guess maybe like we should talk a little bit about Dipcatcher. He's been, I used the word polarizing earlier. I think he's a polarizing figure. He's the guy that came up with the Gophers thing. I don't even know when that was, maybe like a year ago. Maybe more than that now. I don't know. But we actually had him on this show whenever he launched Gophers, and we talked about it in depth. And I think a lot of people have a pretty bad taste in their mouth about that, because I don't want to say that it looks like it was abandoned, but it looks like it was a little abandoned. We had he launched a copy on Ethereum, and then I think where people thought that the plot was being lost and started to get critical is whenever he went to launch it on Solana. And I was one of the dum-dums that participated in that at a very small amount, luckily. But and even Dipcatcher, I've heard him now admit like that it was a disastrous move. He claims that he probably lost a lot more on all these deals than anybody else did. And it was a huge mistake the way he offered it. And he actually compared it to like the sacrifice phase of PulseChain, and just how so much money got in at the top. And that's why, we've gone down to where we are now and everything. And you can argue whether, and we'll look at that post actually in a minute, whether he's being dramatic with it, or there's some good points, I think, also on his philosophy on what kind of happened with the PulseChain price since the sacrifice. But anyway, so that's some of the stuff he's created. He also, in the first cycle with Hex, created in part the perpetuals, right? Maxi and all that stuff. So if you want to take part in a huge Hex stake that you wouldn't be able to have access to typically, you can use those perpetuals to do that too. I think a very good idea and used by a lot of people. So now, he's been talking for a while about wanting to get some more utility behind eHex again, how he thinks that it's a huge point of entry, like we've talked about here tonight, that eHex doing well would be huge. Again, he's even talked like, I don't even know, the PulseChain needed to be launched and all these things, which we'll get to as well. But what do you make about what this product is, we'll look at one of his, but if you want to find one of the general, like, here's what FlexNet is, that's what it's called, FlexNet, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is basically going to be like a layer 2 on Ethereum that eHex would be like the gas token for, correct?
Correct. Here, let's do this one. This is the TLDR version of a lot of this. So, yes, it is a layer 2 built on Ethereum. Again, I'm not going to give opinion one way or another. Just kind of go over what it really is. But yes, layer 2 on Ethereum, powered by Hex. eHex is the gas token. Essentially, you will wrap your Hex. Apparently, they're redeemable 1-to-1 in a token called Flex. That once you send it into the layer 2. Now, here's the thing that is the major unknown for all of this, right? And that is, if Ethereum takes off like I think it's going to, what are the gas prices going to be like again, right? Getting in and out of layer 2s is not going to be cheap. And, with the opinion of PulseChain not needing to be created, there was no need for it, and this and that. We easily forget that many of us were paying over $1,000 to end a stake.
Right.
It was just atrocious, and frankly, it was ridiculous. So a lot of stakes ended up not getting claimed because they were for smaller amounts. The cost to do it was more than what it was actually worth anyway. And that's my fear again for this upcoming cycle. And if Ethereum takes off, like I think it will, you're going to see higher gas prices. Now, have they fixed them with any of these updates? I guess we'll wait and see. That's one of my concerns, is getting in and out of a layer 2. Richard has spoken many times about Vitalik. Why are you supporting all these L2s when they're taking your share away of Ethereum? And that's what we want to see. So obviously we know there's a concern there with all the layer 2s and popularity amongst those. Then you get into security risk, right? Because you've got to bridge, you've got to transfer over to that layer 2. You have to open up some sort of admin keys, risk. There's really no way to do it trustlessly. So you got to put your faith in whoever's controlling the keys to the bridge. So how secure is it? Can it get hacked? My biggest fear is trying to bridge into this, depositing a bunch of Hex to get some Flex. And then guess what? The next thing we know, that the bridge gets robbed for all that Hex and dumped on the market. So that is my biggest fear about this whole thing. But what it's going to be, again, back to it, is essentially a incubator launch pad for people who want to develop and create and do things like that, and essentially just use the Hex token as the gas. So. Yeah.
So what do you make of it? I mean, you said earlier that, I'm not going to give my opinion. I want to get your opinion, because we both, as he's been teasing it leading up over the couple of weeks, we were both like, hey, I'm glad he's doing something with this. I'm glad. And I do agree with him. He looks around and sees a lot of people bitching all the time and is like, well, if you can do something about it, why not try to?
Sure.
And, he does have these abilities. He's launched this kind of stuff before. And I'm glad that he's taking some kind of action. It's just that some of the things he's done look like they may be failing, and people are skeptical, especially, I mean, not even just of him. I mean, like, this is crypto. I mean, you're skeptical and people rug you all the time,
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you make of just the attempt to try to do something, as long as it's in good faith?
Well, I think it's in good faith. I don't see any problem with what he's doing. I don't think he's ever intentionally rugged anybody. All the perpetuals work fine. The contracts work great. They're still tradable. You still can redeem them 1-to-1 for the Hex that was put in. So, all of that is perfectly fine. Again, my biggest fear is the bridge, or whatever you want to call it, the sequencer, I think is what it's called, to get from layer 1 to the layer 2, and it's going to hold a lot of value. I'm concerned for the safety of those tokens. I'm not a builder. I'm not going to be one that again deposits my hex and goes over and plays on a network that, what for, right? I'm not a builder. I'm not somebody that would probably use this, unless there is some weird well, and unless there's some staking platform where, when those fees for Ethereum do get crazy and unusable, is there going to be a way to mimic or stake your hex on a layer 2? If that is created, then maybe I would consider it, only because we know what the gas fees are probably going to do. Other than that, why would I take the risk if this works or whatever? And he thinks the hex price is going to go up because of it. Then I would rather just be in the hex that is supposed to go up in value.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of one of the things. I mean, this isn't something that everybody has to do or participate in, and like you said, if you're not a builder, then okay. But if something's being created that uses hex as the gas token for it and creates demand for hex, yeah, I want to keep buying hex, and we already have been buying hex, and anything that can help it do well and pump is fantastic. We've had other kind of things built on top of it to help it theoretically, like Hedron, and more importantly, Icosa, Communis, obviously, and a lot of other things. So I am glad that he's trying this anyway. I mean, we'll see what it does, but yeah, to the point that we were saying at the beginning of the show, it just makes me more bullish for the bags of eHex that we've already been buying at crazy deep prices.
Personally, I think it's unnecessary. I don't think it's needed. I think it adds a security risk that we probably don't want. The security risk itself is more of a detriment than a benefit, because if there is any way for someone to hack it and steal those tokens, guess what? They're going to dump them on the market and not give a shit about the price. So that is the biggest concern that I have, because some of these layer 2s have been attacked and they've been taken for everything. So I just hope there is a lot of thoughtfulness and care into the security, which again, I think Dipcatcher is a very smart guy. I'm not taking anything from him. I just don't feel that this is a necessary step. We're in a bad part of the cycle right now. It's going to work itself out. This is probably not even needed. And to see a comment earlier saying, well, ever since I launched this, the price has been going up. Well, that may be patting yourself on the back a little too soon for that. I don't think it has anything to do with the 37 people that might know about this right now. I don't think that has anything to do with the price. So, as far as his ideas in the past, they've been pretty spot on. Too much yield. That was a problem. It was a problem. People were dumping the price.
He was totally right about it.
He called it out. He was right about it. Now,
and he was panned for that. He was shit on by a lot of people for that, for just fudding.
I know.
Because he came on. Do you remember? He came on. Was it one of the Maddie conferences? It was him, Axis, and some other people. But him and Axis were having a really friendly, but like a debate about it. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, it was very good. And again, he's very knowledgeable. He knows what he's doing as far as putting things out. So again, I just pray that the code that hangs on to the original hex is secure. That's my biggest concern for this whole thing.
I totally understand that. Yeah, Dipcatcher never one to let an opportunity go by, to claim that the stuff that he's doing is the reason for the things pumping right now. I have to think he's such a smart guy that I think he's probably doing it tongue-in-cheekly a little bit, I think, but he does tend to do that. And he's an interesting guy too, because he's one of these people who I don't want to say he's just a contrarian for being a contrarian's sake, but coming from a guy who likes to be a contrarian, I think he likes to be the contrarian in the room. And he's done it with many, many things. And I think that's why people get frustrated with him, because it's like, oh, here he comes again with this bullshit. Because I think he likes it. I think, you know, when you're, especially, and we may even feel that way too sometimes. It's like when you're in the ecosystem, which sounds like an echo chamber a lot of times, you want to be like, okay, like, here we go with the same old, same old. Like, you guys never question Richard Hart. It's Daddy Richard, whatever he says. I mean, I definitely get frustrated by people that are like that. So I get that for sure. But yeah, he's just somebody, I think that's why he rubs some people the wrong way, is they might be in kind of just cheerleader mode blindly. And I think that's frustrating. And honestly, it can wreck a lot of people. Blind faith, you know, I mean, isn't exactly always the way to go. I think you need healthy skepticism. And I do like his thoughtful posts about that. But whenever he gets to the, I'm just trying to like be contrarian, I think it's evident sometimes. So
I wish him well. Again, no ill feelings. I like Dipcatcher. Not a huge fan of his business partner, but
I think he was just called out in the chat, actually.
I think so too. They're, you know, but again, I hope it goes well. I won't be using it. I'm not a developer. I'm not a product creator yet anyway. I mean, you know, who knows? If we decide something comes up and you know, we not ruling it out. However, it's just it doesn't appear to be something for me to use anyway. So
I get that. Yeah, I get that. Could you actually, on another note, maybe I should have had you do this first, but I do want to pull it up, his other tweet, if you could, about this. Not so much because it's the one that talks about the PulseChain like sacrifice and the way that funds were basically collected, being the reason that the ecosystem's so down. And this is kind of just more on a separate topic. You know, it could have been Dipcatcher or anybody who brought this up, but I do think this is worth speaking about. I sent it to you the other day and wanted to hear your thoughts.
I think I have it.
Yeah, so here we go. So we'll just talk about this as a general topic. He says, the hard truth about why I'm trying to find alternative paths to success in our ecosystem is that economics of the Pulse and PulseX sacrifice will take years or decades to resolve, he says, if they ever get resolved. See, and whenever he speaks like that, sometimes it's like, I think he likes to catch people at the beginning, but he does expand on it. He says, one, honoring the paper value of Hex, which was then burnt for the sacrifice at a flat rate of 0001, created too much supply at too high a cost basis without injecting liquidity. Only eHex benefits from this. Two, he says the sacrifices were way oversubscribed at too high a valuation. I don't think you can really argue with that too much. This creates a massive sell wall of resistance at the sacrifice rate with no corresponding support. Three, 650 million of cash demand was extracted from the system through the sacrifice, and now is worth under 300 million. That would be the famous Ethereum buy at about $3,900, and now it's, you know, ETH is where it's at now. This is 75% less than the current 1.2 billion paper value of Pulse, PulseX, and Inc. This is 90% less than the paper value of sacrifice prices. He says there simply isn't enough to go around to deliver gains for everyone. The only way to get gains is to be part of a small number of people who get in at low prices, not be one of the 140,000 people who got in at high prices, which that is what happened. This is why I'm not relying on RH to inject much into the markets. It is basically giving it away to the first sellers. He's done it before on a number of occasions, and it produced the same results, so he has certainly learned his lesson. I think he's probably right about that. Of course, people who are relying on Pulse and PulseX for their first big win in crypto don't want to hear this, but I earnestly believe the best path to success is centered around Hex on Ethereum, and I'm proving my belief in that with my actions. PulseChain had a chance to be excellent, but it has two massively heavy belly lumps hanging out from under the t-shirt, which this guy, which aren't getting any smaller due to hugely funded and organized competition. PulseChain, the network, is a fine network. It's just too heavily reliant on Pulse and receives the negative benefit of being tightly coupled with PulseX. We must free ourselves of these negative externalities we have put on upon ourselves and restore Hex to its true glory. So there's definitely some truth in this, for sure. Obviously he purposely writes some things in a way to sting people a little bit, I think also. But I'm curious about your points on this because I mean, you can't say the guy's wrong when the prices have been what they've been for the past 2 years, and we know how many people got in at the sacrifice rate and everything, and how much money got in. So what do you make of this?
Yeah, he's totally not wrong, and we've talked about it many times about how heavy this system is and how many people needed to get rinsed out and sell at low levels before we could ever really move up. We've seen money injected and immediately sold back down. I don't think it's a bad thing because you're essentially, when you do that, buying their positions, right? You're increasing your bags. It's not like you're just paying people to exit, because when this actually does go up, your entry levels are going to be considerably low. So it's not a bad thing. That entity has not sold any tokens, so it really doesn't matter. But again, he's not wrong with what he said. Well, the one thing that I think is different, people, their rate was not 0.001 for a lot of people. They invested heavily and got a 2 point whatever up to 2.5 multiplier bonus. I think I got like a 1.7, 1.8 multiplier bonus on what I got. So, it was considerably more. So the entry cost was a lot lower than the 0.001, which reflected in the price, right? I mean, you've got to average that in, that people's entry levels. Yeah, if you bought 10, 15 bucks worth, then yeah, you got 0.001. But if you put any substantial amount of capital in, you got a multiplier bonus. So again, the price is truly reflecting that now. The problem was the value of Hex when it happened. That is where the extreme value came from, because it was so much higher than what it's worth currently.
Right.
So people got to capitalize on a lot of that value with tokens. So yes, it became extremely heavy. But I don't see it taking decades to play out. Like, it could take a cycle. It could take 2 cycles till it actually does play out and loses a lot of that weight. But Bitcoin was the same way, right? I mean, there were people that got a lot of Bitcoin at the beginning of that, and it was really heavy. Years go by, time fixes all of that stuff, and it's not a problem. So yeah, I don't disagree with the things he's saying, and people could get concerned by it. And again, he's good at that. He's good at getting people to think a little bit. But yeah, I just don't understand, I guess, the concept of it enough to see how it's going to help other than be the gas token.
You mean with the FlexNet thing specifically?
Yes. I don't know how it's not going to fix any of this other stuff that he talks about.
Right.
So,
I
it's
get
not
it.
intended to. I don't think it's intended to at all. It's meant to fix eHex, and that's it, pretty much.
Well, I do think in a weird way it's indirectly intended to. I think it's indirectly intended to in terms of creating demand for eHex, which he thinks will help spurn this other stuff. I think what he paints in that picture, though, is such a large thing to overcome that, I mean, you don't give up, obviously. I mean, and honestly, I think it is a little bit of an overstatement. Like, I do think he is correct that this could have been done far better. You know what I mean? I do agree with that. And certainly, like, the ETH trade is something that people are going to second guess until the end of time, probably, or until there's a new all-time high and nobody cares anymore. Maybe
there is something to say about that too, and there's a reason why it happened. And I still believe that reason was so the funds didn't get stuck in DAI, because he didn't know what the SEC was going to do. Were they going to freeze the wallets, and then was MakerDAO going to comply? And all the stuff that was in stable coins could have been frozen. Like, you
Yeah,
don't
good
know
points.
that. And yes, it was at the top, but I don't think he had a choice. I think in order to have that money available where it couldn't get frozen and maybe never even unfrozen, right? What if it took years and years to play that case out? No one knew that. So people are very like they're very critical
Presumptive.
of that move, thinking
Oh,
he
yeah.
made the right call or he made a wrong call and bought a top when I don't think he had a whole lot of choice. I think it was his best option at that point in time to make sure that the funds were never frozen, and um, he had to do what he had to do. He understood that it was very early in the cycle, and it probably wasn't the top, and it was probably a bad time to buy. But again, I don't think he had a choice.
I do get where you're coming from, and yeah, that is a good point. Like some people are very presumptive about like what RH's actions are, things that the OA has done before, things like that. But you don't know what's going on behind the scenes either.
Mhm.
Like just like you said. Also, hey, here's another actually gigantic thing. Like we're just talking about the ETH trade. How about the launch of Pulse timing wise? I think we just talked about that maybe last week or the other night together.
Well, yeah,
Like, yeah, that itself. Do you think he wanted it to launch in May of
hell
2023?
no,
Because I don't really either. Yeah. Yeah.
hell no. He had to put out, a reliable product to not get charged with fraud.
Yeah.
So at that, it was a MVP. It was a minimal viable product that had to be released and launched. Um, so that didn't come into play. Had that not happened, then they could have said, "Well, you didn't fulfill what you kind of said you were going to do.
Right.
Therefore, we are going to come after you with the fraud charges." And you took all this money and you spent it, and you never gave any kind of anything. So yeah, I don't think that was an ideal time to launch that either. Now, obviously, he wanted to do it sooner. It took a lot longer than he thought. That probably wouldn't have been any better. The markets just continued to go down and down and down. So
Hmm.
even had he done it earlier or later, I don't think that would have mattered. I think doing it as early as he did actually had the blessing of getting people shaken out and losing some of that extra weight of people that just didn't believe in it, and they only sacrificed because everybody's like, oh, it's going to do crazy things out of the gate. So
Hmm.
yeah, again, yeah, we talked about that the other night, and it was
Yeah.
not the ideal time to launch. If you want to time things to launch, you wait till a little bit closer where it can have that blow off bottom and then start to run with everything else. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think ideally he would have wanted it into 2024, probably maybe beginning to mid of 2024, which,
Yeah.
then you could have ridden up the Bitcoin all-time high into the election and stuff like that. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I believe that. But hey, it's one of those things like we have the reality we've gotten the opportunity to DCA into these tokens now for a very long time. Whereas if it did launch later, you would have just probably been DCAing into eHex and had more hex whenever the copy came over like later on. So, whatever, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, whatever the hell they say.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
good. I mean, it is, I'm glad that Dipcatcher puts the thoughts out there. Somebody should do it. And I'm glad he's not doing it in a way that's just completely critical, like an Eric Wall type essay or something like that. Even if he is kind of a contrarian guy, somebody should be putting that stuff out there. And
Yeah.
he's not saying this ecosystem sucks and I'm abandoning it. He's doing something. He's still here. He's still doing something for it. The other day I heard him talking about like Sonic and Andre Cronje and people like that, which I get what he's saying. Like he was giving them a lot of credit, but like Andre Cronje also just randomly leaves crypto whenever he wants to
Right.
sometimes. So keep that in
I'm
mind.
out.
Yeah,
He's like, I'm
exactly.
out.
So,
Gone.
yeah,
Months.
yeah, I get it. But anyway,
Mhm.
yeah, kudos to Dipcatcher for doing something. We'll see how this thing turns out. Let's wrap up with this. I have PDI fatigue, so I don't want to go to that stuff, even though we're just going to have the same discussion we always do, and I just don't really want to right now. But how
Okay.
about this Kraken thing? Do you want to pull up? I think we really just had Sami's tweet on it. But yeah, he was posting about this earlier, and I don't know if this is just another screenshot of replies from the Kraken account, or I'm sure it's not actually Jesse Powell or whatever his name is, but the Kraken replied, if that's what Sami put in here. I know I saw it independently earlier, but Somebody in a comment, oh, okay, this is a little bit different, but I did see somebody on Twitter earlier in a comment was asking Kraken, like, hey, how's the Hex or PulseChain listing going? And they responded with a, like, they didn't say stay tuned, but it was along those lines anyway.
Yeah.
But
Yep. It was this Eva on Hex was the account that has been asking about that, and she's the one that posted the same thing. So he posted one of her original rumors. Here, I'll just read it. Apparently, Kraken are testing PulseChain transactions, moving wallets, testing PulseX for a few days. I have not confirmed this, just showing. Here's the screenshot. Now, there were a few people in the comments that had said Kraken 4 wallet is just it's a wallet that gets linked to anybody that buys on Kraken and transfers out. So it's very hard to prove that it's them doing it, but I will try to find, if you want to continue, I will try to find her.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
But essentially, I mean, and not just Kraken, Coinbase, Kraken. I mean, like, there's been discussions like, will they list one of these for a while? But I think Kraken's kind of always been the premier one because I would say probably of all the American exchanges, they are the most cypherpunk of any, if you were to say that. Jesse Powell, I think, is a pretty legit dude. And, they've had lawsuits filed against them from the SEC. They used to have staking on their platform, which I think they had to get rid of and stuff like that. But
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Here's one of the good ones. And Eva had said, what's strange, it's not a transfer, but a swap, wrapped ETH to Pulse and Kraken 4 in the logs. And then these guys are like, oh, I see it. Okay, that's different. So it's a swap from the wallet, which you can't do from the wallet without the keys. Obviously, you need to approve the transaction rather than send it out like that. So, there could be something to it. Again, I'm not a blockchain sleuth. I'm sure some of you out there will be like, you're Ewok, you're an idiot or whatever. That's not really what happened. So again, you have to be careful who you listen to doing blockchain technology or blockchain investigating. So you're kind of putting your words and into their hands at that point. So it's an interesting transaction. And they did mention to her when she posted something, hey, what do you think about this? And they kind of just gave the whole stay tuned. So
yeah. Well, it's good to see
it, but
yeah, I forget exactly how they put it, but that was pretty much the energy I got from it anyway. So
yeah,
yeah, it could be on the horizon. I mean, hey, we're getting like the domino effect of good news happening here now, so we will see. If anything, makes sense that you could see Pulse listed or PulseX. I mean, I guess even Hex, honestly, too. I mean, we've had Hex listings obviously before, so we shall see. But that would be, is that Dipcatcher on the Kraken thing?
Well, so he actually jumped on this post and said, hey, now that Hex is formally cleared, I've submitted an exchange listing on Kraken for it. So, yeah. Oh, here's the reply.
Here you go.
Hey, Eva, no update we can share just yet, but keep an eye on our listings roadmap. You never know what might pop up next. So
that could mean nothing, but
it's not. Sorry, we're not going to support it.
or ignored, which
or just no answer.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
There's a little winky face here too. So you never know.
You never know. We'll see. I don't know that I trust people that are always putting emojis in their text. But yeah, it is an official exchange account, so you never know. But we'll keep our eyes peeled. We've had many dick teases of exchange listings and stuff like that before. But hey, if it was ever going to be one, Kraken would be, I think, the best one that it could possibly be. So I'd be totally in favor of that. So anyway, yep, RH Max, appreciate you being here, man. I think that's going to wrap us up. We had a great show tonight. Lots of bullish news. The SEC finally, putting their tail between their legs and scurrying on off. It's good to see. We appreciate all of you guys being here tonight. We know that it's been a long couple of years. We've been doing this show since September of 2021. actually, not actually live streaming on YouTube. But if you go to the podcast version, which there is actually one, if you didn't know that, on Spotify, you will see, September of 2021. I was out there buying the top. So, quite a long journey we have been on. And
yes, it has. Having our fireside chats and recording those drunk chats live and putting them on Spotify. It's pretty funny.
I wouldn't mind doing one of them again like that. I enjoy that. But the next 12 months are going to be interesting. I mean, we didn't really say this tonight, but we could be heading into 2026 just with the way some of these things are shaping up, which I mean, I would be completely in favor for, because that probably only means better news. So, we appreciate you being here.
Axis has talked about that a couple times, that it could extend into 2026. I wouldn't mind getting him on the show again. He's due to join us. So if you're listening to Axis, think about it.
We're due. Maybe a Frank Molina one eventually again, too.
There you go.
That'd be nice. Sunlight. Don't remember you from another night, but hey, thank you for being in here. You participated in the chat a lot tonight. Digital Money Markets, RH Max obviously chimed in. Crypto Lives, Ren, Cody Pauly, you dipped in here tonight. Hex Wizard, whole bunch of people. We appreciate you guys being here. We do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have more bullish stuff. DJ Moonboy, thank you, sir. More bullish stuff will, I think, be happening by next week. We'll just see, because I feel like the dominoes are starting to fall here. We have a lot of things starting to line up. Just when the rest of the world is done with their tariff drama and sitting around not, looking at markets, the markets start to move. So we will see. We got an FOMC meeting coming up in about 2 weeks. We'll check that out too. But any final thoughts, Ewok?
Nope. 7 more days on the Creed of Crypto.com website for the merch, 15% off. I think it lasts for 7 more days. So
pick yourself up a tee.
Check that out.
If you have any spare money, I don't. If you do, head on over creedofcrypto.com, get yourself a tee. We got the Tri-Blends on there. I am wearing a Tri-Blend shirt, just not a crypto one. But head on over there, check it out. Got some cool merch in there for you guys if you would like to purchase them. But I appreciate you all being here. We will be here next Wednesday. So for Crypto Ewok, this has been Broke Boy Crypto right here on the Creed of Crypto. See you guys.